This is Kick-Ass Love. I'm Tina Overbury, and this is episode 6. We're doing something different here. We're writing a book, his book, live, right here on this podcast. And the book we're writing, it's about what it really takes to come back from hell and build a life that doesn't just work, it means something. I'm a story coach and a brand new expressive arts therapist. For the last 10 years, I've helped people write, author, and publish their books. The people I work with have big stories, and Trevor's is just that. So meet my co-host and the guy at the heart of this story, Trevor Castile. In a world where men are taught to man up and stay silent, Castile is speaking openly about sexual abuse, trauma. His story challenges the idea that vulnerability is weakness and offers an alternative. Truth-telling is kick-ass love. What happens when an expressive arts therapist from Bowen Island helps a northern construction guy to write his book?
And welcome again, our friends, my friends out there. So appreciate you joining us. I think what I'd like to describe for you, I'm going to put this one away because I'd like to get into the RCMP statement, yet I have about 3 or 4 things ahead of that, like I did last time, and then I didn't get into it. I keep teasing everybody with that. So one thing that I do want to read here, which I think is important because it gives context to the foundation of where I was at before even making that statement, especially when Dad died. So the grief definition from the American Psychological Association says the following. Okay, again, this is on the APA website, the dictionary in it, and it's the grief definition. So to understand the actual details and the roots of what these words are and what they actually mean and how they affect me in my mind, in my body, physiologically, all of it, as well as my soul, it helps to simplify the anguish. So here's the definition, and this is me before he started molesting me. Again, this is why I'm saying this. So to get the RCMP statement of the charges going, this was my current state at 13 years old before the guy touched me for the first damn time. So this is what I was experiencing already. The anguish experienced after significant loss, usually the death of a beloved person. Grief is often distinguished from bereavement and mourning. Not all bereavements result in a strong grief response, and not all grief is given public expression. Grief often includes physiological distress. Now, did everybody hear that? Grief often includes physiological distress. And you can look into the definition of physiological, but that's your body and how it functions and all the parts of it. Grief often includes physiological distress, separation anxiety, which you can hear already in some of the story I've told already. Going to visit my dad, blah, blah, blah. So it often includes physiological distress, separation anxiety, confusion, yearning, obsessive dwelling on the past. Well, you've heard of that about me. And apprehension about the future. Intense grief can become life-threatening through disruption of the immune system, self-neglect, and suicidal thoughts. Grief may also take the form of regret for something lost, remorse for something done, or sorrow for a mishap to oneself. So again, this is something, I would like to explore a little bit later with the definition, but I just wanted to read the definition because, again, it gives context to the 13-year-old boy before this even started. So I'm just going through it right now. So it says that it's experienced after significant loss. So that's a no-brainer, or the death of a beloved person. So we're talking about dad there when he died at 13. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they broke up my birthday party that I had to tell all the kids that that dad just died and I had to go to the hospital. And so I had a bunch of kids with me playing on the trampoline and Zim Zam at the time and stuff like that. So that was interesting. But when we get into the physiological distress, this makes sense with the picking of the skin, the self-harming, um, the heightened nervous state of in stuck in fear mode. Just all kinds of different things. The separation anxiety, it's, I separation anxiety kind of goes with this obsessive dwelling on the past. Why do I have this this connection with my dad and going out to the cemetery so strongly? Well,
Mhm.
those three words right there, separation anxiety, yearning, and obsessive dwelling on the past, explain in the definition why. So it helps it make sense. And there's confusion in there too. And where else is in confusion is also in the, as I've read before, the trauma definition. So so as a kid, if you're confused, if you're, it's just it's really, and then it's self-explanatory is what I was going to say. And then the the disruption to the immune system, I mean, my allergies, self-neglect, well, that's pretty obvious from the story that you just heard. And suicidal thoughts. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You've heard that many times. So, it's just naming within the definition a lot of the story that you just heard. This wasn't given to me at Alberta Hospital either. I've got two binders full of one-page definitions off the APA, 3-inch binders.
What I think im- is the invitation here for anyone listening is that if you are in a space where you can see yourself in Trev's story and you're feeling overwhelmed, confused, uh, can't find yourself in it. Some of what you're offering, Trev, in the definition, it's like it sounds like those gave you. It's like a light in the dark, like a flashlight in the dark. It's like, oh, that's what that is.
Oh my goodness.
Right? That's normal. Oh, it's normal. Oh, it's normal to feel like this. You know?
Exactly. It brings normalcy to, because my normal is not normal. Yet I always thought it was normal, even though I didn't consciously think that.
Yeah.
Unconsciously, I thought it was normal.
Yes.
So spend some time on that.
And when we
Yeah,
think that kind of upset, despair, distress is normal, it can lead to I need to just get out of this place because if this is what normal is, why am I here?
yeah.
And I'm
If you can consciously think that is my point.
yeah, yeah,
And I was never there.
yeah.
I would always find little bits more, and I would always think that I had hit the root cause, like I had dealt with this. It's all to bed. That's what I always
Mm.
felt. That's what I always thought as I went along. I am continually surprised when everything reared its head up until 2 years ago. So now I'm on the offensive instead of the defensive. I'm investigating it
Nice.
instead of it surprising me. I'm not going to allow it to surprise me anymore, to the best of my ability.
Mhm. I'm gonna grab a stool. So if I look like
Yeah.
I'm leaving, I'm not
No, please
grabbing a
do. So what I'll say while you're
stool.
doing that is so basically my, and I don't just dwell on the definitions, they're just a very small piece in the pie. The definitions, I just have my definition story here. I started with grief for my definitions. Okay, this is my definition story before any shit happened, okay? So the second step that happened with me is trauma definition, and then everything within that. And what was happening? This is my body, my mind, and my spirit or my soul. Okay. all things being affected by these definitions and what's within them. So the trauma was the first time. There's almost a little bit of trauma with dad dying and the way it happened, but there's also certainly trauma
Mm.
with the first time that he touched me or molested me, right? And again, as I said, what's within trauma, the four first factors that are listed are significant fear, helplessness,
Mm.
confusion, and disassociation. Okay. The next step that I have here, which is not really PTSD, because that's more for an adult,
Mhm.
veterans of war, things of that nature. It's so they created a whole new definition because for to be more specific to childhood. So really, my next definition is the developmental trauma disorder, which explains the successive molesting events.
We want you to know the content shared on the Kick-Ass Love podcast is based on Trev's personal lived experience. These are his reflections on healing, accountability, and transformation. He is not a licensed psychologist or therapist, and I am finishing up my diploma as an expressive arts therapist. I am the space holder for these conversations. The information and opinions expressed are not intended to diagnose, treat, or offer medical or psychological advice, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional support. If you are experiencing mental health challenges or require clinical care, please seek help from a qualified healthcare provider or licensed therapist in your area. Call 811 for a helpline responder, and if things are particularly dark in this moment, call 988 from anywhere in Canada to reach the Suicide Crisis Helpline. Your journey is valid, and you don't have to do it alone.
And then the last one I have is trigger. So the definition, what is trigger specifically? And then how that links back to the different things, whether it be the grief, what can remind you of the past there, be triggered, what can be triggered about the trauma, or what could be triggered about the complex trauma. So that's, and feel free, anybody, out there, that if you want to kind of dig into, you know, just do what's right for you. Like I said before, kind of what I follow is where my heart points me, is where I go. But then I'm very gentle and careful and thoughtful with myself to the best of my ability now. But there's nothing stopping anybody from, looking up any definitions on the APA if they want, or anywhere else that they want to do. So again, I've got the statement here in front of me. I'm open to page 2. And that's again the RCMP statement. So here's a CBC News article um, that was from December 19th, 2000. Uh, and it says that so I gave my statement, as I've said many times before, in November of 1996. So that's when I sat down with this guy face to face, this RCMP officer. So, so the middle of December, the year 2000, it says on CBC here with this news article, a sex assault cop gets 3-year term. And I had no idea until I had read this somewhere. An RCMP officer is going to jail for 3 years for assaulting 2 teenage boys. The constable was sentenced in Yellowknife yesterday after pleading guilty to 2 charges of sexual assault. He met his teenage victims while working as an RCMP officer in a community up here in 1988. He made friends with them and gave them gifts of clothing and money and vacations. He kept in touch after he moved out of that community. He assaulted one boy who came to live with him in another northern community. I'm just trying to protect identities where I can and not be as specific as I can as I read this article. So he assaulted one boy who came to live with him in another northern community, a second one while going to school there while that person was going to school there in 1989. The other victim visited him while he was posted in a third northern community 4 or 5 years later. And he was charged with the offenses in 1999. So 3 years or 2.5 years after I gave him my statement. Um, and there's the justice and his comments with it and stuff like that when he was sentencing him. But even what you see within this article is, it says right there that the other victim visited him while he was posted in this second northern community 4 or 5 years later, and still got victimized. So that's exactly what happened to me. Again,
Mm.
when I've described that it's a mental invisible prison,
Mhm.
it lives in the unconscious, the control. And so this victim also went to him, just like I went to visit him and got abused. Because the other side of me, which I don't understand, is that I love this man. I care about this man. He's always been our family friend, and so you have the two sides, and you don't even know you have those two warring sides inside, and you're in conflict, but you're still trying to follow your you don't want to hurt anybody either. So you go to them, yet you don't even realize what you're doing to a certain extent, or I should say, for me, anyways. But this is just another statement where the victim actually visited him just like I did. And then he got. Maybe I'll just read the end here if it says it. In passing the sentence, Mr. Justice Ted Richard rejected the defense request for a conditional sentence. And then Richard said he had abused his position as a friend to the boys and as a police officer. And there's more there, but again, I'll just leave it at that because I think I've made my point without being too specific.
And this is the same RCMP officer that received your statement, yes?
The same RCMP's officer that's named at the top of the statement that I looked in the face and gave my statement to. There were two officers sitting at the table with me at the time, but he was actually the one that I was right across from and taking my statement. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So again, the twists and turns of all this, I'm trying to lay that out before I'm actually even going into the statement. So yeah, I can start on page 2. This is the first time I've ever kind of read this, and well, this is the first time I've read it. Part of
Okay.
this is so yeah.
Give
Any
yourself
thoughts before we get started? Or you
just to give yourself a moment. Give yourself a moment of love, of care. Yes, just caring for yourself. Like, what do you need? And you're already doing it. You got yourself a glass of water. You're in a seat you feel good about. You're in your house. But also, just to bring into consciousness, like the acknowledgement of self honor that's going on right now. This is an act of self love, self honor, and reclaiming something that's been sitting hidden or in a desk or just only in your head, and you're giving it to us to hear
Mhm,
and to be present with that.
mhm. Yeah, thank you. You know what's interesting is right now I'm just angry.
Okay.
I'm really angry. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, in speaking about this, I need to be very controlled with that anger, and I need to use it constructively. And that can change very quickly as I read this statement, because this is just a festering pot full of emotions
Mhm.
that you're trying to regulate and control and make sure that they come out in a positive way. That's what I'm working towards. Awesome. But and as you do, it's like riding a bike too, that you know the more I get back on the bike, the better I'm getting at it.
Mm.
So I am becoming very, very powerful inside, and I can feel it, and I am excited. So, but even that excitement I have to control
Mm.
and make sure that it's coming out constructively. So finally, wow, here we go with the RCMP statement. So, again, everyone out there, protect yourselves.
Mhm.
This is not about me. This is about you. So we're here to build, it's about us. Maybe I'll correct that. It's about us. But my point with that is obviously that do what's right for you. Stop it. Don't listen to it at all. Um, or do what's right for you and just follow your gut with it, because there's different things within the statement. And as I've said to you before too, I've also gone through it. I've highlighted the yellow areas where I can read, other areas I'm not stating, and other areas I've actually stroked out in black. So, I'm not identifying anything that I just don't want to identify, uh, because this isn't done out of vengeance. It's done out of education. Um, so the date on this again is November 6th, 1996. It's just after 2:30 in the afternoon, 2:35. It's taken by two constables across the table for me in an undisclosed location, like it wasn't the RCMP detachment here in downtown Yellowknife. Um, and so we went through the first page there of, he was taping the conversation and getting me to spell out my name, give my address, where I was from, all of those regular things that you do at the beginning of a statement, and identifying himself and all of that. Excuse me. So I jumped to page 2 here, and we're going back on a Q and A. So there's the Q, and then there's the A semicolon, and you've got, usually from the officer, you've got the because it's transcribed letter by letter for the
Mhm.
courts, and so you've got the from the officer usually in between any sentences, and then sometimes it's very very fragmented, the answers or even his questions given the content. So here I am on the middle of page 2, and I read it here as I'm starting to talk a little bit about the first time, excuse me, that I can remember. And so I'll try to read it as it is and do it as closely to as it is on the statement. So, um, and it can also give you a little bit of context to what I was feeling or going through that day. So here I go. Uh, the the one that really sticks out in my mind, the first event, was when um, one of them that really sticks out in my mind is the first time, and that was the house um, close to the old hospital along Main Street up here in Yellowknife. It's behind. Um, it's it's along Main Street, and the officer says, "Okay." And then I say, "Yeah, it's the house directly beside it. It was that house." On again, what year this was? It was somewhere between 80, 82, 83. He says, "Mm-hmm." And then when my dad passed away, I just remember going downstairs, and downstairs it was their kind of rumpus room or family room, and not too sure of the total descriptions there. It's quite, and there's a couple question marks there. And I'm not sure how it evolved, but we just he, I think he just started touching me, and he said, "Don't doesn't this feel good? Doesn't that feel good?" And I'm not sure if that's the correct wording, but things just evolved, and I can't be specific. I'm not sure if that's what the officer. Mhm. it's a culmination. I'm not sure, but definitely, I was totally uncomfortable with the situation. I can't remember if I said no or not, and but I know I was very uncomfortable in the RCMP, and that was the first, and I answered that was. Um, and I can, as I'm reading this, I'm bringing myself right back to that basement room, right where the couch was. It was a split level home where you went downstairs, and right where the couch was alongside the window facing Main Street, and then there was a long rectangular window above the couch. Wow, this is interesting. This is new waters here.
Mm.
um, and then I further down I say, again with the timelines, I'm not sure because they had moved away to the Dawson Creek that I talked about. For a period of time there too. I also visited them in Dawson Creek. Surprise, surprise, from what I just read earlier with the grief, with the news article. So again, with the timelines, I'm not sure because they moved away to Dawson Creek and for a period of time there too. And I also visited them in Dawson Creek, and the sexual assault happened there too. So I also want people to understand that when I charged him in 1996, and when he pled guilty and so on, and that was all wrapped up and he was sentenced within 12 months, I was also dealing with two Crown Councils at the same time. I had the BC Crown Council I was dealing with the incidents and all the times that happened in Dawson Creek and Vancouver. And then I also had the Northwest Territories Crown Council that I had to deal with quietly.
What does that mean for help us understand what that means, Trevor, if you can?
It means that you still need to navigate and you still need to communicate for this whole thing to be facilitated before and after the court process.
Like, you still need to
Because he
think about it? Is that what you mean?
because they were charging him in BC at and the Northwest Territories at the same time for the same crimes with
Right.
my case.
And so in your
So it's not simplistic with more simplistic with one Crown Council is my point. I have that process with the two at the
right,
same time on top of this shit,
which
which
meant
is
you had to keep talking about it. Yes? And
well, it's all aspects of it. I have letters to date still from Crown Counsel going back and forth before this and after this to prepare for it's I'm talking about the steps within a court process.
mhm.
That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, and there's lots of steps in that, and that's also takes a toll. Um, you know, I got called at work once by his defense lawyer to ask me questions, and it was brutal.
Mhm.
So, which I wrote about in my victim impact statement. So, yeah, I was just trying to identify that it was two different provincial jurisdictions
Yeah.
at the same time with this court case that
Yep.
I was in the middle of communicating with before and after and during this. Uh, and thanks for getting that clarified, team. I appreciate that because I'm in it, so it's good for our friends out there to also have that context. Um, so then down at the bottom of page 4, is, um, for the Dawson Creek, as for the specifics of that assault, assaults, but I did go and I visited them for at least a week in this time, and then he says, uh-huh, and then not long, I think we drove, and he always had a way of of around. if we were around his family or around people. And he says, uh-huh. And then I said, or friends or what have you. And he says, uh-huh. Like he'd say, well, let's go and let's do this or let's go. And sometimes I would say no because I knew what. He says, uh-huh. And would be coming, just the two of us went there. That's what would be coming. Hmm. So I could see the frustration on his face. Um, but we ended up going together and driving, and he was the administrator of the hospital there, something senior to do with the hospital there, as he had been up in Yellowknife before as well, at Stanton Hospital. And he he brought me to the hospital, and I don't know, it must have been the weekend or something, because there was real it wasn't busy at all. There was nobody around. And he brought me into one of the hospital rooms, and they had curtains around the beds there. And so it's a little hazy then. He says, uh-huh. And it's after that, but it's definitely a sexual thing. It happened. I don't know if it was ever the oral sex was there though. And then I have a warning box that I won't read. And so the officer asks, so then that this incident happened at the hospital in Dawson Creek? I said, Dawson Creek, yeah. He says, okay. Mhm. And then I go into graphically what he got me to do for him, and other things that I won't say. And so I'll just give me a second if you could, please.
How you doing?
Doing really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing really good.
Yeah. Where are you?
There's different ways to interpret that.
Well, that's the answer. You're here.
Yeah, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm really proud of myself. So this is there. It's this statement is only just a morsel in everything that he did to me too. So yeah, it's just a little piece, because this statement was done on the fly, and there was never another statement or follow-ups, obviously. So this is just a little piece of what he did to me. This is nothing. No, I shouldn't say it's nothing. What I meant by that, I hopefully you understand what I'm saying. It's a small fraction, a very small fraction. Um, so I'm just going to go ahead on page 6 if I could. So, anyways, that happened, and also when I was down in Vancouver, I came to visit, and we went for a drive again in a station wagon. And now that was before. His question is, now that was before the Dawson Creek incident, and answer, I believe, after. And then I go into dates and things like that, some specifics for him. And then further down, I'm saying, yeah, between 83 to 1983 to 1985, one of those years I was in Vancouver. I'm not sure. Obviously, this is a statement at the beginning of all this, so they figure all that out through their investigation specifically. And then in the middle of page 7, I come to, I'm just saying, I'm so sorry if it's a little confusing. I'm just, and the officer, yeah, no, that's okay. And then I'm like, and he says, it's been like that. It's been so many years. And I said, yeah, but anyways, that happened in Vancouver again. And somewhere between 1983 and 1985, when he came down to visit, and then it happened. We got in the station wagon and we went up towards Grouse Mountain, and we lived on the North Shore in North Vancouver. He says, right under Grouse, towards Grouse Mountain, and kind of parked, and it's not as developed. It wasn't as developed back then as it is now. It was kind of says, uh-huh. And yeah, there were there, and I didn't recognize it as an assault. What happened then to me, and just the ejaculation and just using the hands. Uh, he'd want a kiss, and mouth to mouth, and we did a little French kissing with the tongue. Better take a moment here right now.
And exhale.
And sad. Yeah,
Yeah,
and sad.
sad. And exhale.
Yeah, really angry right now.
Yeah.
It's okay. I got
You
this.
you don't have to fight the anger.
You know, just let her flow the way I know how to let it flow. Now,
Mm.
I am gonna say an F bomb right now, but maybe I won't. Just oh boy.
Ways. You have ways of releasing that anger. I've watched you do it. You write, and you write your anger out. I've seen you sit with your anger, have a conversation with it, the way you sit with your dad at the cemetery there.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Anger, what's beautiful about anger is it's a response to a crossing of a boundary. Anger is information. So there's awareness in you that that boundary was crossed, and you're having a response that is fitting to the action. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, thank you.
Mm.
Um, what I'm also aware of with that is I will also not become like a person that uses then the anger as manipulation or a weapon
Mhm.
because they have been harmed, but it's not being dealt with the root cause.
Mhm.
And so now that anger is discharged on other people
Mm. Mhm.
because it's not resolved. So I will not allow that is something I watch extremely carefully with myself, that my anger will be used constructively and not destructively.
Mhm. And so, as you live in the present moment right now, where this is not happening to you right now, you're able to both and have the outrage of that boundary that was crossed then, where there wasn't anger because there wouldn't have known what that was. But as the adult, you're like, that was wrong. But you can have both. You have anger from the past that's coming up, and you have the awareness of where you want to be with that anger now.
I as we're speaking about this, and we dip back into the statement, or we'll finish it next episode. Excuse me.
Hmm.
But I've thought many, many times about the hypocrisy out there right now. So many times in the quiet, I've thought about this.
Hmm.
It's such an extreme hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Um, that and this is this. Where is the anger that we're talking about right now? Which everybody can feel grief. Everybody can feel, this anger at this level of anger with their own different way.
Hmm.
But where does all that live? That lives in the unconscious world.
A therapist
You
once,
know,
sorry,
oh,
go.
no, no, please go ahead. The therapist once said,
A therapist once said to me when I was going through my own healing journey, which is, of course, a lifetime event. Your healing journey, people, if you're watching, is a lifetime event.
mm,
Um, and I was worried that there might be things that come up that are bigger, that might shock me because of how my healing journey started. And I never forget it. She works in trauma. And she said to me, your psyche, like your brain, your system, will only bring forward that which you're ready to deal with.
ah,
And I really appreciated that. That as hard as,
that's very cool.
yeah, right? And it makes sense because our bodies are very intelligent. Our psyche is very intelligent. Everything that
It is.
we put down because we're not ready. So when it starts to come up, it means something's ready here. And we can trust
Mhm,
that always.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that makes what you just said in that statement is exactly what I've been doing and what makes sense. So that that's so simple. Yeah, I love the wealth. I'm so grateful for the wealth of the exploration into this unconsciousness. So there's the unconscious, the really deep stuff. There's the pre-conscious, which is more easily accessible, and then there's the conscious. So even understanding those levels is huge. But it's the operator's manual that I said before for the car or the truck or the maintenance is it's understanding more key pieces to be able to run myself better and be more profitable and successful, right? So it's interesting. What I was thinking too when you were talking, that was one part of me thinking at the same time as listening. Which I have a tendency to do with maybe all of us, um, is and actually truly listening to you, not just there's listening and then there's
Yeah,
listening.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's I'll probably just stop with the RCMP statement for today,
Yeah.
since we had a really nice break on that and kind of dissected or analyzed it a little bit there, which was fantastic. The three things that I started out with were calm, dig deep, and humility, and that's exactly what we did here. So fantastic. The other thing I'd just like to read a passage here from the EMDR book, the EMDR Revolution, which is the eye movement desensitization reprocessing that I had done with the two different hemispheres of the brain and so on. And we can get into that more. But I just wanted to say to you that you can see all the stickies in it. And this is I've had this for I think 2010. And so here's a passage on page 20 of the EMDR Revolution done by Tal Churl or True. Sorry. Um, it says, let me see the passage here. How does EMDR work? And so, in other words, every time an incident, we're talking about incidents here, traumatic incidents. So, in other words, every time an incident overwhelms us in such a way that the brain cannot process the incident in real time while it is happening or very close to it, a capsule is formed with a piece of us stuck in the incident so that we are actually reliving the incident over and over again. It has nothing to do with logic, since the logic is in the adaptive memory network to which the traumatic memory has no access. We can tell ourselves over and over that the event is in the past. It is no longer part of our lives. In fact, it hasn't been for years and shouldn't affect us anymore, yet it is not accessible to the content of the frozen capsule because it is stored in a separate network. This is how, for example, people who go to therapy for years can spend endless sessions crying over the same hurtful incidents over and over again, since what is playing in the capsule is painful. So I was just reading that because as a child, myself, going through a traumatic event, whether it was dad dying or whether it was especially the molestation, when those events happened, a frozen memory, I couldn't process those events like an adult.
Yeah.
So then what they became frozen into the capsule that I just read about. And so then now they remain frozen as an adult, and it's unprocessed, and therefore any external stimuli, anything in my environment now that's smell, touch, sight, sound, whatever, that reminds me of that event that's frozen in the past, now unconsciously triggers a negative output or whatever I'm going to do related to that. So whether that's lashing out in anger, all kinds of different things, because that remains unprocessed, and EMDR in 2015 at least helped me process some of those things. So that's kind of like a complete go round. And thank you.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, then, for all of our listeners, we'll see you next time and we'll hear a little bit more
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
statement.
we will.
All
For
right.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Take care. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tina.
Thanks, Trev.
Bye.
Till next,
Next time.
till
Okay.
next.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Kick-Ass Love. This was a particularly challenging episode for both Trev and I. Technology, was challenging. The content was very challenging. And if it was hard for us, it's going to be hard for you. We want you to know that you are important. Your well-being is important. Take care of yourself. Reach out, ask for help. People are here for you, and they care. And this, well, it's not just a podcast. It's a build site. It's a blueprint. It's a fire pit where we tell the truth and we don't look away. And it's a living example of what it looks like to move forward using the scars of trauma as tools for healing. Take good care of yourself and keep living with some kick-ass love.